What's up, everyone? We're back for another episode of Locked On Bucks, and joining us, I was going to say a familiar face, but maybe not a familiar face for those watching on YouTube, but certainly a familiar voice. Friend of the podcast, Seth Partnow, is here. He's about to, I don't know, I want to say about to become a published author. Let's say a published author. I'm hearing people have got it in some places, so published author as well, so plenty to talk about. Offenses have been struggling around the league. Why is this the case? Why is this happening? And specifically the Bucks in particular, just looking at how they've managed their offense and defense over the last couple of years. It all ties into this fantastic book that just came across the screen. So let's get into it.
So you were
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Bucks. I'm your host, Kane Pittman. You can hear and see me now daily on this show, and also find my work over at ESPN and NBA Australia. And as I teased right off the top and did not tell about the opener that we have now, so I set him up already. So that's why I'm a terrible host. We have the former director of basketball research with the Bucks, now published author, also analyst over at The Athletic, Seth Partnow, with his book, The Midrange Theory, about to come out. Seth, it's always great to catch up. Thanks for taking some time, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and sorry for almost speaking over your intro. That did catch me by surprise.
I didn't tell Frank about that either, and Frank did the same thing. So I mean, it's me. It's definitely my fault. As always, we thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen of every single day. You can hear us wherever you get your podcasts for free, and also now on YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by McDonald's. Proudly serving communities since 1965, McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends over at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it, Seth, and I'm loving this book that I've got on order that I'm about to get. Who knows? I'm not going to try and guess what Australian postage is going to do with this book and when it's going to arrive. But this is exciting. It's very cool. One of the things I would love to do one day is have a book, and you've been holding it up. You've got it in your hands. This is a lot of work. I believe the initial tweet came out. It must have been around April or May this year. And I think when you talk to someone that writes a book, you realize how much time they put into it.
I think I actually announced it just about a year ago. I finished the bulk of it in late April, early May, but I think it was kind of the official contract to deliver a book was signed maybe late September or October of last year. So yeah, it's actually, for a book like this, it was a pretty quick turnaround time. Sports books have now, having written one, I am now an expert in all things of the publishing industry. So, but sports books tend to have quicker turnaround times just because there is a certain amount of currency involved. But still, it felt very quick. It was a lot to cram in, but I think the end product came out pretty well, and I'm excited. I was definitely excited to have the physical item in my hand, and I'm excited for other people to get a chance to read it. I'm hoping that I can do something to help sort of clarify some of the discussion around the sort of the great analytics debates of first of all, the sort of the meta debate about the place of statistics and analytics in basketball and sports, kind of demystifying some of the misconceptions really about what the thing is, but then also just this be topical about what is the cause of all the 3-pointers that we're seeing, what is to be done about it, is it a problem, how are the playoffs different from the regular season, why is the draft so hard in the draft and team building overall. And so those are just like some of the topics that I deal with in some of the chapters in the book, and I'm excited for people to get the chance to engage with it.
Well, you had me hooked straight away just from the title, calling it the Midrange Theory, because when you already hinted to it there, but if you're watching an NBA game this year, and this is something that has become I don't know whether it's more frustrating or more humorous the way that it gets thrown around, but in particular with the mid-range shot and certain aspects of the game that now they just become buzzwords that people will throw out there without any context or meaning. So, I think it's going to be a really fascinating book to read, and whoever gets it is certainly going to learn a lot. But I think when we always try and tie things back to the Bucks here, but I think in general, when you talk about shot distribution and the way we've seen the Bucks change, and whether you want to look at it from the offensive end or from the defensive end, the way the shots that they've tried to get opposition to take since Mike Budenholzer's come to town, it's been fascinating. I was looking at some numbers just in preparation for this, just to get some context to this, and this is on the defensive end, and we know this, we've discussed this over the course of the last couple of seasons, but when you go from 2017-18 under Kidd and Prunty to Budenholzer in 18-19 shots. This is shot frequency. This is via Cleaning Glass, by the way. Opposition shot frequency at the rim went from 39% all the way down to 30, which was, I think it was ranked around, it was in the 20s there, something right up to number one. The teams were taking the fewest shots at the rim. And then as far as three-pointers go, it wasn't necessarily the overall three-point frequency, but non-corner threes. We know this, the Bucks have tried to cut down on opposition corner threes and make them shoot more of those above the break. Threes went from 22% all the way up to 28%. So that was the most obvious sign that you saw that things had significantly changed with the Bucks. But how do you think that when you look at some of the aspects that you're talking about in your book here as applied to the Bucks defensively, whether it's personnel, whether it's by design, or whether these things tie all together?
Well, it's sort of a realization that if you try to defend everything, you defend nothing. And I don't want to put words in Coach Budenholzer's mouth, but I think I'm paraphrasing things that he's said as well. Is all right. What's the place where the opposition can do the most damage? It's at the rim. It's at the rim because scoring at the rim is still the most efficient way to score. It also gets you free throws, which are also extremely efficient ways to score. Like the only thing like more efficient than getting to the free throw line is dunking. If you get to the rim a lot, you get a lot of offensive rebounds, which again leads to not just extra opportunities, but what tend to be high value extra opportunities. So and this is, I think, something that's demonstrable over NBA history. If you do build your defense kind of from the inside out, you can be very effective. Now, part of that, you don't necessarily want to concede open three-pointers, but if you can limit the catch and shoot threes, if you can limit the kind of the open corner threes, and corner threes it's yes, they're shorter, but it's also they're open, and that's almost so a player catching the ball open means that your defense has been broken down somehow, and so limiting those situations puts you in sort of a good gives you a good platform to build off of, I guess. I'm almost using like a soccer analogy of being strong at the back gives you a chance to build out. And I think that was, if you ask Coach Budenholzer, would you like to allow fewer threes? Yeah. Would you how many more shots at the rim would you like to give up to take away those threes? The answer would be none. And I think that's that might be too extreme, but I think that's closer to right than the other way around. And then you need the personnel to do that. And so I talk about this a lot in the book. A big change, not just scheme, was Brook Lopez in terms of a player who, first of all, can deny shots at the rim, can suppress opponent shooting at the rim when he's there, low free throw rate. And even though he's never been a great in terms of his own totals of individual defensive rebounding, him along with his brother and a few other players, Steven Adams comes to mind. Nene was always a player who was better at suppressing opponent offensive rebounding than he was to actually grabbing rebounds himself. Brook Lopez is has been over his career one of the elite players in the league at doing that. And you look at his, he's a center averaging 5.5 rebounds a game. What the hell? Well, his team is getting 80% of the defensive rebounding chances. And which is more important, how many rebounds he gets or how many rebounds the team gets while he's on the floor? And so that all told sort of coalesced into, I think, a good base of a defense. Then of course you have, Giannis with his sort of free safety ability, and something that was equally important, and I think the Bucks are missing it this year, was first Eric Bledsoe and then Drew Holiday as the sort of the point of attack defender who can sort of almost force players off the line to go towards Brook Lopez, and then kind of almost a pincer action that way. So it was a combination of both scheme and really the right talent to make that scheme work.
I was thinking about this earlier today as well, just putting it all together and how fortunate the Bucks have been, because, and I've always pushed back on this, but we do get into the habit when we talk about Eric Bledsoe of focusing on what he wasn't able to do in the postseason. And in many ways, it's a bit of a shame, but it does, the fact that Drew Holiday is such an elite perimeter defender really covers up the fact that you lost Eric Bledsoe and what he was able to do in that scheme as well. The Bucks have been obviously very fortunate there to have those two guys there. I think we've seen it with the Bucks here over the first couple of weeks of the season as well. If you watch the postseason and you didn't have any idea of what impact Brook Lopez can have on this defense, then I don't know what you were watching. But when you completely take him away, and as you pointed to, not only does that remove some of the intimidation factor of teams trying to score at the rim, but it also removes Giannis as the free safety. So if you have a player going downhill that does get downhill in front of Drew Holiday, he's like, okay, Brook Lopez is there. But not only do I have to worry about Brook, I have to worry about Giannis flying in from the side and blocking the shot as well. And I think we heard Giannis yesterday post-game when he was just like, look, this is really hard. I want Brook back. This has been a real challenge. And we've seen that with the Bucks. They've been giving up more points at the rim. The intimidation factor isn't there. And they're disorganized. I mean, they've been healthy. Brook Lopez has been extremely reliable over his first few seasons in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's at a certain point, you can only take so many pieces away before it to, and this isn't to make excuses, just an observation. I mean, the Bucks have been down, at times like 5 of their top 7, projected playoff guys, and any team is gonna, is going to struggle under those circumstances. And the biggest worry isn't so much what their record is, when everyone comes back. It's the biggest worry for me is, and this is a similar worry that I have for Kevin Durant in Brooklyn and for Anthony Davis with the Lakers, is that you can't win the title in October, November, but you can lose it. And you lose it by doing so much now that, come April, May, June, Giannis or KD or AD don't have the legs they need because of the exertions you're putting on them now. And so that's more of the worry than sort of like losing to the Timberwolves. Like, that's not awesome, but that doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't. Losing to the Timberwolves in, was that this month or last month? It was late October. Like, it, you'd rather not, but you lose a game in October without 3 starters, and so what, but it's more just the long-term effects of what, and Chris is going to miss a few games now. So, maybe that'll rest his legs a little bit at least. But for Giannis, there's no rest for the wicked, kind of, and just worrying about not just the amount of minutes that he has to play, but sort of the load on both ends of the floor that he has to carry. And again, it's not just Giannis; it's Anthony Davis and Kevin Durant as well, are the 3 players who are really in that book. And it's funny, it's the Bucks, because before the season, like, the team I was going to be worried about that with more was Miami, just in terms of how much they were going to be asking about of Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler, kind of older players as well, who are going to and they've sort of avoided that by, first of all, by being very good and blowing teams out, so they're not demanding a lot of them. But also they've just been, they've so far been much healthier than the Bucks or the Nets or the Lakers.
Yeah, and I think the trickle down effect that you talk about, obviously Giannis is the top, and it goes without saying, you're not winning the title if you don't have Giannis. We know that. But also some of the other important pieces that we thought potentially could help the team. I don't think that it would have been in the planning to have George Hill starting games in the first month of the season. Perhaps it wasn't in the plan to have him start games at all. But when you talk about getting an upgrade at the backup point, because point guard position, and does that mean something through the regular season? Well, not if you have to play him 30 minutes a night at the start of the season. So all this is certainly concerning, and I agree with you there. Giannis, when you talk about shot distribution and the way the game is going, Giannis is fascinating to me. So I want to ask you about Giannis and what we've seen from him developing. But if the Bucks are clearly missing a few parts right now, but if your car is missing a few parts, you can definitely sort that out at rockauto.com, because with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brands their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. So save time and money with Rock Auto. They've got everything you could need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Just go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. And then jump across to betonline.ag, and I've been saying that the Packers have been looking pretty good the last few weeks on this show, Seth. Bad day, tough day if you're a Packers fan. So maybe I won't be pumping up the Packers here, but you can get all your football odds, basketball odds, hockey odds at betonline.ag. It remains your number one spot for all that action. Head to the new or updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. So as we move to Giannis and the shot distribution and evolution of the game for Giannis, it's been fascinating. I mentioned with Eric Bledsoe that sometimes people focus on things they can't do. It's kind of been the same with Giannis. We've seen it in media, and fortunately for everyone, or for Bucks fans that are listening to this show, what he did in the postseason certainly eradicated or a lot of that criticism, certainly when it comes to postseason play. But as always with Giannis, we've seen his game develop year on year on year, and you always ask yourself, okay, what's next? And for so long, people have been so fascinated by the three-point shot, and I think part of that is what you'll read in your book, and the fascination with the three-point shot and the expansion out to the perimeter. What do you think? What are you most interested in? Or if you could add one thing to Giannis's game, offensive game right now, what would it be for you? I'm fascinated to hear what you would think it would be, or how you would look at that.
It's a really interesting question. I think that I think it would not be kind of more of the outside shot. I think it would be sort of a counter move when teams. I think he has some pet moves. I think that's, there's the hard Euro straight at the chest, the hard dribble left, spin back right. Those are sort of well known, but it's a little bit like, a great pitcher with only two pitches. Okay, it's coming, do something with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But if just like a counter move to some of those, whether it's kind of a push shot, which he's at times kind of come up with off of like the spin, kind of come back with a little jump hook at times. It's something that has kind of come and gone. But I think from a scoring standpoint, those just kind of those little clever counters to his. Not necessarily something he does every time, but just enough that if you're just massively overplaying, like, in the Nets series last year, Blake Griffin, anytime Giannis drove to the left, you could almost see Blake Griffin slide a half step to his left, anticipating the spin back. And so just something, whether it's a quick drop step, an up and under, something that's a counter off of that would be like just that next little thing. But that's that's very picking nits territory, I would say.
I think that's one of the more interesting options, just because it feels like he can get it. When I say so easily, I mean so easily for Giannis. I mean, because as you sort of pointed to, not only do people know his tendencies, but we've seen when he has tried to use it, that it seems like a shot he can get every possession. I do feel like part of it is that he's never really felt like he's got great touch around the basket, because you kind of described it as a push shot, but then also a sort of a jump hook. And it's like, I don't know what it is. It's hard to describe exactly what it is. But funnily enough, the shot that he hit in overtime when no one on the Bucks could score in Game 7 against Brooklyn in overtime was that push shot jump hook on Kevin Durant. And it's like, yeah, this is a shot that you could get. What about the baseline fadeaway that he always pulls out? Do you like that shot? Because I mean,
No.
and I thought that I thought that's what you were going to say. It feels to me anyway. It feels like when he takes that shot, he's essentially bailing out the defense. They're like, all right, look, we know that you can knock these down. You've shown that you can knock these down on occasion, but it still feels like a low percentage shot for him, right?
It's not. It's that, but it's also there is a certain amount of sort of predetermination.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see, there's a lot of players, a lot of right-handed players, kind of do that right shoulder like turnaround as a counter move. But you also see whether I think AD does this a fair amount. Embiid does this certainly. Is kind of they spin back and then they step through and dunk. And I feel like that's something Giannis used to do on occasion. I feel like it was something he was doing actually some kind of in the bubble. And it was kind of because his strides are so weird. It kind of always looked almost like a travel. But that's something he's kind of gotten away from. And yeah, if the player concedes space and you rise up, it's not an awesome shot, but it's not terrible. But so often, like the player kind of comes with you, and you can kind of take one more pivot and step through and kind of get back to the rim. And it just seems like once he like turns to the right shoulder, it's like, well, I'm turning to the right shoulder and I'm going to elevate and shoot. And so just like, again, a counter off of that to get back to a better shot that, if the opponent is sort of overplaying a shot that they should be willing to concede.
Yeah, I think we've definitely seen him go to the step through a couple of times. He went through a phase, and it really was a phase because it sort of disappeared from his game. But when the Bucks would have some guy in the dunker spot, because he would draw the attention, and this was not so much baseline. This was when he tried to go to the fade in the middle of the lane, where he would sort of jump in the air and then dump the ball off to the guy in the dunker spot, and it'd just be a layup or a dunk. And he kind of went away from that as well. Something that stood out in the game yesterday against who'd they even play yesterday? They beat the Pistons. Yeah,
Detroit,
so you forget about the Pistons, but he shot the catch and shoot three, which you spoke about catch and shoot threes earlier in terms of the whole league, and obviously that's going to be a higher percentage shot. It was interesting to see him even shoot that just because it felt so rare, because A, the ball's normally in his hands, but secondly, he would normally catch and either penetrate.
One dribble left. If he's going to shoot the three, it's going to be a quick rhythm dribble left and then elevate. No, he's I think he is not comfortable, catching and shooting. And so for most players, the catch and shoot is a better shot. The equivalent of a catch and shoot for Giannis is probably like the one stationary rhythm dribble with his left hand into the jump shot is functionally what his catch and shoot three is, because it's not like the defense is going to crowd him when he takes that first dribble. So it is odd just to see, catch, step into, and elevate. And that's not something I don't think we've really seen since maybe his rookie year as something that he's comfortable doing.
It's funny you say that, because we were in the DM yesterday, and I said that to Eric. I said that's what he used to do in his rookie season, except he was standing in the corner most of the time. But it was catch and shoot, and he would shoot that three. But yeah, it was just an interesting one to see. You had an article drop at The Athletic today as we're recording this, just generally about the offensive struggles league wide. I want to ask you a couple questions about that, because we did discuss this a couple of days ago on the show, and the Bucks' offensive struggles are very explainable, perhaps not so the rest of the league. But first, I just want to mention our friends over at McDonald's, who have been proudly serving community since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect, Seth. I was talking to Frank yesterday, and he was on a road trip. Did you used to always stop at McDonald's on road trips, or do you still stop at McDonald's?
I have two kids, so Happy Meals are a thing. So yes.
It's a place you always look forward to stopping at a long road trip to rest your legs and refuel and probably keep the kids happy. I don't know. I'm not at that stage yet, Seth. But you can head to your local McDonald's to refuel and reconnect. Did somebody say Locked On Bucks watch party? I don't know. I can't even remember where there's a McDonald's in Milwaukee. But maybe one day. Who knows? When I'm back, we'll have some sort of live show. We'll figure something out. So this article that you can find over at The Athletic. I assume most of our listeners are subscribed to The Athletic and they're reading our friend Eric Name's stories on a daily basis or every couple of days anyway. But if you aren't, check out Seth's stuff. It's always super interesting a lot of the times from a more league perspective. So it has felt, and this is what I found fascinating about this story, and I don't want to give it all away, but watching the league this year and looking at some of the numbers and certainly the 3-point percentage and just the average offensive rating across the league, I was looking at it and I was thinking, why does it feel like there are so many games that have lower scores this year than certainly last year? And maybe it just stands out because last year felt like an offensive barrage to start the season. But I guess it's not the case. I guess the start to this offensive season is not as terrible as what we all think it's been.
That this is something that not to tie everything back to the book, but I think I talk about this a little in the book, kind of in the intro, saying like frankly, I didn't talk about last season very much in the book because from a stat standpoint, I kind of was suspecting that we would sort of throw 2021 stats out the window just because the environment was different. I mean, it just was with the bulk of games having no fans. It was just a different environment. And I think that in part, led to what, like, as you say, last year felt like almost a pinball machine, just the scoreboard, just like, and it was both just the shot making, but also like it seemed like the relentlessness of the pace of games last year. And I don't think we've seen that as much this year. And we've actually seen sort of more of the normal trend, which is offenses start the year slow. They just do. Like, turnovers are high to start the year. Shooting is bad to start the year. And then it 3 weeks, a month into the season, it starts to pick up and then kind of improves over most of the rest of the season before kind of that last couple 3 weeks before the playoffs when teams kind of are more jockeying for position and, resting guys and stuff like that. It kind of tails off again. So really, like, for the most part, with one exception, like, we're seeing kind of what early season basketball tends to look like.
So you're telling me it's not Wilson's fault? Is that what you're trying to say? And by the way, I felt a little bit bad for Paul George because it's Paul George. Of course, he had to be the one to say this when he's actually been shooting the shit out of the ball. He's been shooting it really well. He was just making a general comment.
Well, it's one of the things where, like, I was, the notes about the ball of kind of people have brought those up, and it's like, yeah, I have seen a lot of players like fumble passes and drop the ball and blah blah blah. It's like, but it's the kind of thing that, like, once you're primed to look for it, you see it everywhere. And so, like, the kinds of things that you would expect to see if the ball was having an effect, like, okay, turnovers are up, but turnovers are up kind of across types of turnovers. You would kind of expect to see more of kind of the lost ball, the fumble it out of bounds, fumble it to defender, that to be more of the increase rather than, thrown away passes and stuff like that. And we haven't seen that. We've seen, like, it's sort of balanced across that you're that turnovers are just up across the board, kind of proportionally to how they normally come about. So I don't think that really supports the notion that the ball is a big driver of what's going on. Now, something that someone who works in an analytics department in the league did note is that, maybe the early season struggles are perhaps a part of the thing that the balls aren't as well broken in yet by the start of the year. I don't know if people know this, but, like, the teams kind of use some of the game balls as practice balls just to help break them in. And you can kind of see them go over the course of the season from slightly tacky and somewhat orange to kind of a deep brown and really quite slick over the course of the year. And I think that Anecdotally, it seems like a lot of NBA players actually prefer the broken in slicker ball to than the newer kind of tackier, a little bit harder version. So it's maybe not the new ball in that it's a new manufacturer. It's just that it's the new balls for this year, and maybe that has something to do with kind of the slow starts we see every year. But I don't think there's anything like different about this ball from the previous manufacturer, like that would cause any sort of. It's not like if people remember back when they introduced like the synthetic balls in the mid 2000s, like those were awful. Like I like one of my regular pickup runs at the time used those balls, and I remember Steve Nash was talking about like how they made the tips of his fingers bleed, and that happened to me. Like the tips of my finger, because the ball when it got wet was so tacky, it dried your fingers out so much the skin on your fingertips would split, and I can't really describe how painful that is to have the ball like come off your finger when there's like a split in this like. So that was a problem. That was a very different ball than the kind of the leather ball that we're used to seeing. But I don't think it's the ball this year.
I actually went back to read some stuff about this a few days ago because I couldn't believe. I don't know why. I just couldn't believe that was 2006. It was that long ago when that ball came in and lasted 20 games or whatever it did, and they were like, okay, we can't do this anymore. But yeah, the fingertip stuff is absolutely absurd. I mean, it doesn't seem ideal for playing a game of basketball. But I think the most notable change and the most obvious change, and we saw this towards the back end of the regular season and certainly through the playoffs, has just been crowds. And it's interesting from a Bucks perspective because we know historically going back and even in the bubble when there was no fans there, the 3-point percentage dropped off in the postseason. And one thing that you can never really record, I guess, is what the players feel under pressure or what impact the playoffs has on their shooting. Last year, you had the pressure of the playoffs and the pressure of perhaps previous postseason failures, and also all of a sudden full crowds. But it was disastrous. I mean, it was terrible. Obviously, in the finals, it came back. But prior to the finals, no one outside of Bryn Forbes could knock down a shot. So in the first round, that is, could knock down a shot. So I'm interested because there's been a lot of comments on Twitter. Well, it's good to see the Bucks are in postseason form with their 3-point shooting early in the season. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's not a huge shock that if that was having an impact as well, all of a sudden having these fans back in the arena.
No, I think that's right. And I think you greatly point to the fact that like shooting out was elevated in the bubble as well. So that the fanless environment, I think, was a kinder shooting environment. I mean, I think last year, right up until the point where kind of fans really started to get back into arena, like the league as a whole was shooting like 39.5% on open threes. Now, normally that's a number that hovers or in the 38s usually, but 39.5 would have been the highest of any of the seasons of tracking data. And it kind of settled back down to around 39.1 because the last kind of 6 weeks, month of the season, as fans were back in the building, and you can't really definitively assign causality to that, but it certainly coincided that it dropped off a little bit. And so now fans are back in the building, and it's that number is around 37%. Now that may not seem like a huge difference, but that's the difference in at the rate at which teams shoot now. That's a bucket or two a game, 3-pointer or two. That's somewhere between 2 and 5 points a game of difference, which is a over the course of a season is just a massive difference. That's a 5 to 15 win difference for a team. If it was affecting only one team that way, just to give an idea of the magnitude of just that one change. And so I think that, this year it feels like, and this is normal at the start of the year. Like I said, it's normal at the start of the year for players and teams to shoot poorly. But the fact that we're changing from last year, which was such a ridiculously kind shooting environment, makes it feel even more drastic than just the normal early season. Like, hey, we just came out of training camp. We don't totally know the plays yet. We're just getting to know each other, and we're super nervous and haven't got a rhythm yet. Thing that happens every season.
Yeah, and again, if for the Bucks, there's no real explanation needed for why the offense has been struggling so far. We know why. I actually saw
Personnel,
I saw a table, and it might have been someone at the other. I can't remember who put it up. If you saw it, maybe
I believe it was Owen. If I know the one you're talking about, I believe it was Owen Phillips, who's a great follow. Yeah, a great follow on Twitter and has a newsletter that I think is worth anyone kind of interested in data visualization to follow if they enjoy data visualization in basketball. Yeah, I know what basically the Bucks have played the most lineups of any team in the NBA by just an enormous margin.
Yeah. I mean, it was honestly, it wasn't even that far off. Double the team in second. I mean, they were around 150 different lineups or unique lineups or whatever, and I think the second team was below 100. So
it was like 90 or something like that.
Yeah. So we've seen some lineups that we probably wouldn't have predicted we would see at all, unless it was like April, like leading into the postseason. So it's been a strange start for the Bucks. Before we wrap it up, you said that you didn't want to tie everything back to the book, but let's face it, that's why we love having you on the show anyway. But we wanted to pump up the book. I've got mine ordered, as I said. If you follow Seth, if you watch it on YouTube, you can see his Twitter handle down there. But it's at Seth Partnow. His pinned tweet will lead you directly to where you can order the book. November 16, I believe, is the date. But you can put your order in. You'll get the book out. Is there anything else we should discuss about the book before we wrap this up? I know you could probably go on forever, but what do you got for me? Any little nuggets?
It's so you mentioned the title, and I do have to admit that it's a bit tongue in cheek because it might sound like I'm advocating more mid-range shooting, and really I'm not anti mid-range per se. I think it's just the mid-range theory is better described as when the shot is appropriate and how that actually hasn't really changed over the last 20 years. If I can give a mild spoiler, and also the title is a Tribe Called Quest homage. So it's one of the formative hip hop albums of my youth was the Low End Theory. So that's sort of the title for something basketball, the mid-range theory, has kind of been in my mind for a number of years, and I finally got to use it appropriately, I hope.
Would you describe, and I always, people over the last few years as I've sort of moved into sports media, and you're fortunate enough to meet people that write their own book, would you describe this process as something you now have a bug for, or this is one situation where you're like, I don't know if I want to put myself through that again?
It's funny because while I was writing this book, Chris Herring, the great SI writer, was working on his book about the Knicks, which comes out in the spring, and I'm extremely excited for. But we were kind of comparing notes along the process of writing the book, and we were both kind of, this is awful, I can't wait to do it again. Is sort of the feeling you have, and I would do it so much better the next time. Wait, I guess that means there's going to be a next time.
Yeah.
There's it's funny because there was parts of it that were very easy, and then parts of it that were extremely difficult, and with almost very little rhyme or reason as to which was which. Again, a few of the chapters just kind of I would say I had largely complete chapters of a few of the chapters done in less than a day, and then a couple of them, like one or two of them, took me 3 or 4 weeks to even get to a draft of a 5,000 or 6,000 word chapter, just because that for some reason getting the argument that was in my head onto the page was proving difficult. Looking back on it, I'm glad I did it. I'm extremely happy with the finished product. Just from a physical object standpoint, I couldn't be happier with how the folks at Triumph kind of put it together, laid it out. I think they provided me, some guidance in terms of how to have some the charts and tables look so it would show up well on the page. And I think it just from what I envisioned it in my head looking like, I think they've really they've done kind of my vision of it justice. And And the other thing is just when you see the physics, is just how damn shiny the dust jacket is. You're not really prepared for that, for how shiny it is. It's kind of like a new basketball. Hasn't been broken in yet, so it's still tacky and shiny. It needs to get played with a little bit, so you get a better grip on it.
I like it. I can't wait till mine gets out here. But you just spoke about that, and the reason why I bought it, and you buy the hardcover, because you want to have it in your hands. You want to physically read this thing. But as I was trying to figure out where I could buy this book or order this book in Australia, there is one website here that was suggesting that there was an audio version. Is this correct? Is this true?
I am not aware of this. That would be cool. As far as I know, there is a Kindle version, or there are e-reader versions. People have asked a lot about an audio version, and I've been told it's a possibility, and that if it happens, they would not ask me to read it, which I'm actually.
Oh, I don't want it then, Seth. I don't want it, because that was the only thing I was curious about. If I was going to be able to just like kick back on my couch and have you read your book to me, I would be maybe a little intrigued.
So this is the thing that you're not the first person to say that, which thank you, I appreciate that. But the one thing that was really surprising about the process of writing a book is it's a great exercise to find out exactly how much you can stand hearing yourself talk.
Yeah.
Like even though like your words, there's only kind of an inner monologue. Like at a certain point, it's like, oh my God, shut up already.
Yeah.
Like you just hear everything in your own. And so the idea of reading the whole thing aloud sounds awful to me. And I would hope that if an audiobook is done, someone else reads it, because man, I don't want to listen to myself that much.
I can relate to that. Just in case any of our listeners were wondering, I do not finish recording this podcast and then listen to it back to myself. No, I am not interested in doing that or listening to myself speak. So let alone a whole book. That would make a lot of sense. Hey, man, this has been awesome. It's always good to catch up. Absolutely. Like I said, I think last time you were on the show, I don't even know if we had a season underway or we were just talking about a season getting underway. But hopefully sometime in the future, I'll catch you at an arena sometime when I make my way back over there. But yeah.
You're missed over here. People, you are missed over here. People would love to see you.
It's, I can't imagine. What would it be like to watch a game live again? I've gotten so used to just sitting on the couch, listening to Marcus Johnson tell me what's going on the floor. Back in a live arena sounds like fun, though. It sounds like fun. So that'll be good. Like I said, the book is The Midrange Theory. Check it out on Seth's Twitter. You can order it there. You get it on Amazon. If not, if you don't have Twitter, and you'll be able to order that one. It's going to be cool, man. It's going to be cool. I'm excited for you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
All right, just a scheduling note before we wrap this up. We're not going to podcast tomorrow. We are going to podcast on Saturday, though. Bucks and Knicks. This is a national TV game. I think this is going to be pretty fun. I've been watching a bit of the Knicks so far this season. Hopefully, Drew Holiday's back. Hopefully, the Bucks have some bodies on the floor then and can make this a competitive game. But it's going to be fun. Bucks and Knicks. ESPN, as I said, so we'll have a post-game show on the weekend, which we don't normally do, but that's cool. Let's give this podcast 2 days to marinate. People can listen to this one and then come back for the post-game show. So for Seth and myself, we'll catch you after Bucks and Knicks.